We all know the end of the story. Moonless night in the North Atlantic. A steel giant deemed unsinkable vanishing into the deep. For over a century, we've accepted this as a simple act of nature. But it's a lie. What if the Titanic was a dead ship walking before it even left port? What if the real killer wasn't made of ice, but of fire? An inferno burning in the dark where no one could see. What you are about to see is the true story of a conspiracy that lasted 100 years. A story of how greed and a hidden fire killed the unsinkable. This is the real Titanic. This investigation is based on historical evidence and photographic analysis. The truth is often darker than fiction. Watch closely, because the details were hidden in plain sight. April 10th, 1912, Southampton Docks. The Queen of the Ocean was finally ready. A fortress of steel and opulence. But in the belly of the beast, a terrifying battle was already being fought. Coal bunker number 6. This is where the tragedy truly began. A spontaneous combustion in 1,200 tons of coal. A fire that had been burning for days before departure. Imagine the heat. Over 1,000 degrees Celsius. The stokers were fighting a volcano inside a steel box. They were trying to save the ship. Every shovel of coal was a desperate attempt to remove the fuel from the fire. But the fire was winning. The steel of the Titanic was starting to change forever. When steel is exposed to such heat, it undergoes a process called annealing. It loses up to 75% of its strength. The vital bulkhead was turning into brittle glass. This fire was raging directly against Bulkhead 9, the only wall designed to keep the water out. It was being cooked from the inside. But why didn't they stop the ship? Why risk everything? The answer is greed. Bruce Ismay and the White Star Line couldn't afford a scandal. They chose to paint over the damage. Literally. They hid the 30-foot scorch mark from the passengers. They hid the truth. Why race through a known ice field at night? Most believe they wanted a record. The truth is, they were terrified. The only way to put out a coal fire is to burn the fuel. They had to empty Bunker 6. The faster they sailed, the faster they burned the coal. It was a desperate race against a volcano. They were sailing into a trap. April 14th, 11:40 p.m. The lookout spots the ice. Iceberg right ahead, the words that signal the end. Murdoch ordered a hard turn. But the ice struck exactly where the fire was raging. The fire-damaged steel didn't bend, shattered like glass. Bulkhead 9, weakened by the heat, collapsed instantly. The unsinkable ship was doomed. The fire had opened the gates for the ice. Thomas Andrews knew. He looked at the blueprints and saw the death sentence. The secret fire had won. The Titanic had less than 2 hours to live. Panic began to rise as the bow dipped lower. The luxury was being swallowed. While the band played on, a desperate choice was made. Women and children first. But the fire had one last role to play in the Titanic's final moments. As the stern rose into the air, the internal structure, weakened by heat, reached its limit. The ship didn't just sink, it broke, exactly where the fire had burned the hottest. At 2:20 a.m., the ocean closed over the Queen of the Sea. 1,500 people were left in the dark. The world was in shock. But for some, the priority was protecting the industry. The survival of the White Star Line depended on one thing: blaming the ice, not the ship. The British inquiry was launched. but it was far from a search for the truth. Lord Mersey, the man in charge, had a clear mission: protect the British Maritime Empire. The stokers who survived were intimidated. Their stories of the fire were dismissed. They were told their memories were exaggerated. The official report called the fire a minor factor. The secret was buried under 4,000 meters of water, or so they thought. For 73 years, the Titanic rested in the dark, keeping its fire-scorched secret. 1985. Robert Ballard discovers the wreck. The images shocked the world, but it wasn't until decades later that experts noticed something strange on the hull. New digital scans revealed the mark. The exact 30-foot scorch scene in Belfast. Journalist Senan Milani spent 30 years researching these photos. His conclusion? The fire was the key. Metallurgists confirmed it. The fire had turned the steel into a brittle state. The iceberg didn't have to be massive, just had to hit the one spot that was already broken. This changes everything we knew about that night. It wasn't an unavoidable tragedy. It was a failure of management, greed, and ego. They knew the fire was there. They knew the risk. They sailed anyway. The hidden fire is the missing piece of the puzzle. The truth they tried to burn. History is not what you read in books. It's what survived the flames. 1,500 people died for a secret. A secret that stayed underwater for a century. But the ocean always returns what we try to hide. The Titanic remains a warning, not about nature, but about ourselves. We are unbelievable true stories. We dig where others stop. If this investigation changed the way you look at the Titanic, then our mission is complete. But the world is full of these unbelievable truths. Next week, we will uncover a story that is even more terrifying than this one. Don't let the myths decide what you believe. Subscribe to our channel and rewrite history with us. Every click, every comment helps us bring the truth back to the surface. And remember, the truth is always worse.